Welcome to Bring Your Brilliance. Are you ready to find and amplify your voice? Looking to be inspired by those who are already out there making it happen? Listen in as we shine a light on those who bring their full, authentic selves to do what they love, make no apologies, and don't try to fit into other people's boxes. With your host, Carla Taylor, who, after years of being inspired by the brilliantly shining people she was meeting, decided others need to hear these stories too.
Hello, and welcome to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show. We are here on Inspired Choices Network, and we are getting inspired and making great choices and bringing our brilliance. And we have one of the brilliant, shining people that I have been meeting over time. And Victoria is someone I actually know, I have known for quite a while. And she is a fascinating person who has quite a story. So we're going to talk a little bit about how she got to where she is today, and then we're going to have a special treat where she's going to answer some of your most burning business questions. So we'll be getting to that. So if you do want to call in, please call. Our 1-800 number is, or our call-in number is 1-815-880-8255 in the U.S. or 613-800-8736 in Canada, and we look forward to your questions. So a little bit about Victoria Finch. So today's show is Just Ask Victoria to get your answers to your business problems. Did you ever wish that you had someone to ask about your biggest business problems or challenges? Or a way to ask like a Google or Alexa about how to get unstuck and to start or grow your business? Well, you are in luck because now you have a direct line to the business help you need with the launch of Just Ask Victoria. Victoria Finch is a successful parallel entrepreneur who either knows the answer or knows how to find it. She has started and grown multiple businesses and turned around others that were failing or on the verge of going under. With her breadth and depth of knowledge, Victoria is a veritable powerhouse of knowledge and resources. Victoria Finch is a business-savvy problem solver. Any business problem you have, she's got the answer. If she doesn't immediately know how to solve it, she'll find the solution. Everyone needs a Victoria to just ask. And now you can with the launch of her new service, Just Ask Victoria. Victoria went from homeless, bankrupt, and broken to successful business owner who empowers others to reach their goals and live an abundantly joyful life. She is an award-winning author, transformative life and business consultant, and keynote speaker who has founded and turned around many successful businesses, including a credit repair business, an industrial painting business, and a power washing business, among all of the other amazing, wonderful things that she does. So she's got quite the breadth of experience, like we said. So welcome to the show, Victoria. We are so happy that you took time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today.
Well, thank you for that. I hope I can live up to that, Just Ask Victoria. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much for having me today.
Of course. Yes. So, like I said, I've known you for over 10 years, and you and I kept running into each other in all sorts of different business circles, and you were always this powerhouse of wealth of information and knowledge, and I knew if I had a business problem, you knew how to do that, and you'd been through it, and you really do have this super fast, efficient way of getting right to the heart of the matter and getting right to the solution. So that's one of the things I've always admired about you. I'm so thrilled that we're now doing some different work together. But before we get into all of that, I always like to take people on the career journey that got people to this point. That's really what my background is in career coaching. I know everyone's fascinated about how people get from where they started to where they are now. So take us briefly through your journey. Where did you start and how did you get here?
Wow. Should we pick a moment in time and then start? Once upon a time, there was a mother who wanted another child. No, actually, how I got here, it really is a journey. It has been a journey of self-discovery and self-love. When my daughter was in vitro, when she was still pregnant, I was still pregnant with her, I lost my job. And when I lost my job, I was a single mom. I was 28 years old. I felt this pressure that if I don't have kids now, I'm never going to have kids. So I decided I wanted a child, didn't want a husband. He was not in the plan till later on. So I made that decision to become a single mom. When I was 8 months pregnant, I got called into the office. I'd worked for the federal government, and I was told that the office was moving, and I would not be moving with them as I did not have enough years of service with the government. I sat there devastated.
Wow.
I am 9 months pregnant. What am I to do?
Wow.
I had an 826 credit score. I didn't know what to do. I had money in the bank. I did all the right things when it came to finance. 2 years later, I found myself $50,000 in credit card debt. Now, this was back in 1994. My daughter was born in 92. $50,000 in credit card debt. I'm trying to take food back because I figured I can miss a meal or two to buy diapers for my child. I had gotten that broken, if you will, financially. I was also broken emotionally because now I felt like damaged goods because I felt my only choice was to file a personal bankruptcy. In 1994, that had a horrible stigma. I thought, I'm never going to get that man because he was in the plan, just not right then. I'm not going to get a house, not going to get a car. We were always taught to be solutionless as children, and we have to figure out how do we solve this problem. So after I got off my pity party, I decided to learn everything I could about credit. I became a credit repair expert. I spent years, nights, weekends, everything I had to do to learn. Got my credit score back up to the 700, started sharing that story with others, started helping friends and family. Before you knew it, I was being hired to fix other people's credit. I opened up special finance departments at Toyota dealerships here in the city and another dealership. And to this day, they're using my special finance programs because I was top producer because I could fix credit, and I taught them how to bring special finance, increasing their revenues by millions of dollars. They're still using my programs to this day. So that's kind of how I started my journey of entrepreneurship.
Wow. So when you do things, you don't do them small. You are brave and you are bold, even in your choice to become a single mom because you wanted to and you chose that. And, you know, we're talking here on the Inspired Choices Network about the choices that we make, and you've made some pretty brave, bold choices. And even, you know, a lot of people who might have even gone the credit repair route wouldn't have gone so far to go to all these dealerships and all of these bigger fish, if you will, that you went after. So tell me a little bit about that. Were you raised that way, or is that just innately in who you are, or how did you get so brave?
I was the youngest of 6 children, and the only way I could get attention was to be louder and bolder and braver than everyone else. So that is really how it came about, because nobody heard me.
Wow.
So it became,
so
Victoria asked.
Yes. Yeah. So you found out at a very young age that it was so important to find your voice and use it, and to be bold and to be brave and to be loud and to go and get things done. Absolutely. Which is how I've always known you. You are a get it done. If you want it done, you want it done right, just ask Victoria. And I love that you are now embracing that and really owning that as what you're doing. So tell me a little bit more about what you're doing now. How did you get from credit repair to where we are today?
As you said, I'm parallel entrepreneurs. I have several businesses, and I also have lived 58 years on this earth. And even as a child, it was always when someone had an issue. I'm the youngest of 6 children, but I am the one that they always came to. And my siblings would say to me, "Oh, we'll just ask Victoria. She'll know how to fix it." And so it always kind of stuck, but I didn't really realize that God was really preparing me for what I'm doing today, because people would call and ask me. I had a gentleman that I worked with, and he had a child. He knew that I had a child, and he said, "Victoria, I don't know what's wrong with Tommy. He has these rashes, and the doctors can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on." And I looked at the baby, and I said, "It's red dye. See if he has a red dye allergy." Turns out red dye, they were giving him a punch, and red dye isn't always red, okay? And they were giving him this punch, and once they stopped it, it went away. And people just started asking me about all kinds of things. And, of course, being a credit expert, I always am getting asked for business advice because I've started so many businesses and I know about credit and I know about finances and I know about life. And I just, I'm a solutionist. I teach people how to get the heat, the cold and the fire to get the heat. I teach them how to do that.
Wow. So you really just, know how to figure it out. You're a figure it out. You've got the grit and the perseverance to go after things. And you also, it sounds like, have somewhat of an innate knowing. The red dye story. I'm assuming you didn't have a background in any of that. You just somehow knew that there was a problem there, and you have, it sounds like, a very strong intuition, and maybe even what people call an old soul, which I think happens, when you see a younger person in a family that people are coming to. That's just somebody who's got something in them that it sounds like you were even born with.
Yeah, I've owned that for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, what are some of the biggest questions that you get? I do have a list of questions that I can go through with you, but what would you say is the number one question that people ask you?
A lot of times people ask the why and the how. Why did you do this and how did you do it? Because you can go and say, Alexa, show me how to make a pot roast. Well, Alexa will give you that information, but she doesn't tell you, kind of like what Grandma would say, put a pinch here, add a pinch there. Do you see what I'm saying? When I make rice, I don't measure. It doesn't come out right when I measure. So what I've learned is that we all need to have that person, someone that we can go to, or a place where we can get things answered. And I just have always done that. So one of the number one things that people ask me is, how did you do that? How did you go from the bankrupt single mom who was broken on food stamps to business owner? How did you go from credit repair to owning a painting company? There's
right.
How did you do that? And what I tell people is the how is one. You must be open-minded. You must be open-minded. You have to, Wayne Dyer said something, and it's one of the things that I live by. He said, be open to anything and attached to nothing. So the first how is to make a decision on what you want to do. And then once you've made that decision, you don't have to be attached to it. Be open to anything and attached to nothing.
Wow. That is deep. I'm still kind of sitting with that one, but yes, that is great advice. And I think when you are open to opportunities and what's next and finding a way, there's always a way. There's always actually many, 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 many ways. But people get so stuck in their current circumstance and not knowing the way out. And I know one of the things I used to tell people is sometimes you get so close to it, it's almost like you're up against this wall and all you can see is this giant brown, what you think is a wall, but when you take a step back, it's just a little spot. And you think you're in deep in the crap, but it's really like just a little spot. And if you take a step back, you can see the perspective that there's so much more to it. So let's stop here for a moment because we're getting ready to take a break. But I want to hear more about the questions that you get asked, and we're going to dive into some of those when we get back from our break. So, again, we're talking to Victoria Finch with Just Ask Victoria. And this is Carla Taylor on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. This is Carla Taylor with the Bring Your Brilliance radio show here on Inspired Choices Network. I help people bring their brilliance out to the world and really get to be known for that. And I'm here talking with a brilliant person who has a lot of answers for when you have questions. So we're here with Victoria Finch with Just Ask Victoria. Before we went to break, she was just telling us about a little bit about how she got here and her journey through being completely bankrupt, or not bankrupt, but, having lost everything, losing her job when she was 9 months pregnant, and really building herself up from nothing to where she is today. And along the way, she has not only learned so much, but just had so many things that she innately knows and has always been bold and brave and had her voice. And so we were hearing about all of that before the break, and we just were starting to get into some of the questions that people tend to ask. So I do have a few questions that I would love to ask you from some of our listeners. And I think one of the biggest things is a lot of people don't know what to do. Like, they know they've always kind of had this idea for a business in their heads, and they've always kind of wanted to start one, but they don't even have any idea what to do first. What are the first three must-dos when starting a business?
Sure. You have to decide what business you want to get in. I've had that problem because I do so much. I tend to not know really what I want to do and find my place. But when you have that burning desire, that thing that's in you, that is your business. That is what you need to step out on. So one of the things you have to do when you start a business is make the decision that you want to have the business. A lot of times what people do is they'll come up with 100 excuses why they can't do it. They truly have not made that decision to step out on faith. That's what it takes. You have to be willing to. That's number one. Get your mind right. Number one. Number two, you have to decide what corporate structure you want. Do you want to be an LLC, a corporation, a sole proprietor? That's extremely important. And number two. And number three, you have to get the right people behind you. If you don't believe in yourself, find someone who does.
Wow. So, yeah, I think we all need that champion and cheerleader who believes in us as much or sometimes even more than we do to keep us going. And you're so right. It's so hard when you're first getting started. You're so scared. Everything is completely unknown. And there's a lot of naysayers in the world. There's a lot of people who are going to tell you, oh, no, it's too hard. Don't do it. What are you thinking? And if you don't have that champion or cheerleader in your corner, at least one other person helping cheer you on, I think that's where most businesses fail before they even begin sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say about, another question we have is, do you have to have good personal credit to start a business?
You do not. You can actually create business credit without even using your personal credit. There are steps that you have to take. Part of that is make sure for instance, little things that people don't understand because the bank doesn't tell you. If you use a Gmail address for your business, you should always buy your domain, and that should be your Gmail. Hotcheck@gmail.com is not going to get you business credit or funding. So you create a business that is its sole entity. You're a person, your business is a person. And so there are certain steps you take to make that happen, as simple as a Gmail. Do you have an office? Is it a home office? You could use a virtual office. These are the little things that they look for to make sure that your business is actually a legitimate business versus, oh, you know what, I can sew good, so I think I'm just going to open this sewing business at home and just have a few friends drop by. That's not a sustainable business. They're looking for how you can sustain that business. And you don't need good personal credit because your business is a standalone entity. And there's about 20 different things that we look at to make sure that you have that clear separation between yourself and the business.
So you really have to take yourself seriously if you want other people to take you seriously, which makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people just kind of dabble at it or make it a side hobby, but they're not really committing and they're not really jumping in and they're just playing. And if you really want to be a serious business owner, you need to take it seriously and create it, like you said, as its own entity and approach it that way. So what if you don't have any money and you don't want to get a loan? Is it possible to start a business from that point?
You got to have something you got to have some skin in the game. You have to have something for startup. I started my first business, Integrated Credit Specialist, with $500. I had $583 in the bank. I created my own website. All the fonts look all funky. If you push the link, it works, right? So what I would say is you have to start, and you got to have something. If you don't have money to start a business, then you need to stay where you're at or find an employer until you can get the funds to start your business.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I talk to people about is kind of having a bridge job or a bridge time of having some income, because you're not going to start with an income from day one. So you've got to have a way, even if it's just funding yourself, to make it through as you're building things up. But I've also watched a lot of people who try to start their business, and even people who actually have more funds they could put into it, but they don't want to. And then they wonder why their business isn't taking off because, well, I want to do this as cheap as possible. I don't want to spend any more money on this. I want to save all my money for me. But if you have, like you said, if you have no skin in the game, if you're not investing in yourself, why would other people invest in you? So it doesn't have to be a big investment. It could be very, very small.
And
but, I agree.
I'm just going to go there.
Okay, go ahead.
You
Tell us
can't
more about
expect me to invest in you. You can't expect others to invest in you if you're not willing to invest in yourself. That makes no sense. I'm on Facebook more than I should be. And I see when there's a birthday, there you can create a fundraiser. And one thing I look at when I look at those fundraiser is, did the person who had the birthday contribute to their fundraiser? You're asking people to contribute to a particular nonprofit that is dear to you, but yet you haven't contributed even $1.
That's a really good point.
So really, how dedicated are you really at making this work? You've got to have some skin in the game if you want others to give you their dollars, because they've got it. It's abundant. The money's out there.
Right.
But if you don't put your own money in first, you can't expect others to do it.
You're so right, and it doesn't take a huge amount. But if you aren't even willing to, let's say, forgo a coffee a day or even a coffee a week and save $5 here and there, and give yourself a few months of even just a little bit of savings to have something to spend. There's so many ways to do things inexpensively. It's gotten easier and easier and easier. And, like you talk about the website, it used to be really expensive and you had to hire someone else. And now there's so many quick, easy, even free ways to create your initial website. So you don't have to spend a lot, but you do have to spend some money, and especially, of course, your time. Or why would anybody else care about something that you're not caring about? I love your example of the Facebook fundraiser. And I think I'm probably guilty of doing that because it was one of those things that's like, do you want to do a fundraiser? I'm like, sure. It's like, what do you care about? I'm like, I guess this. And then I never went back to it to think about it. So I don't think I raised any money because obviously I didn't care enough to do it. So you're so right. We model the way, we lead the way, and we show people how seriously we're taking ourselves, and they're going to notice that. And that's one of the things, like I said with you, you take what you do very seriously. You're very good at it. You're very proficient at it, and you ooze that everywhere you go. You could just tell you're a very confident person. And I know when I have a question in my head, I haven't found an answer, if I haven't even thought of somebody else to ask, I'm like, ooh, Victoria, I'm going to ask Victoria. And that's one of the things that I think you've talked to me about is over time, people, it's hard. You know, there's a lot of glamour to owning your own business, and there's a lot of wonderful things about it, but it's also really hard. Like, you have to be willing to do the hard work. But it's also scary because you're on your own, and I've heard so many people, business owners and even people trying to help business owners, saying, I wish there was an easy way to just get some answers. And I love that you found that gap and you've created this almost like an easy button for your business that I've seen you almost like take people by the hand or put your arm around their shoulders and really just, don't worry, I'm here, I'm going to help you. Like you give people that ease and that peace of mind. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
About helping or giving people ease of mind? Which part? I'm sorry.
Just how maybe even some examples of how you've been able to take some of that fear away for people or just let them know that you're there for them.
I think a lot of it is my story. I wasn't born with some, I know we talked about old soul and that type of thing, but really at the end of the day, I was born like everybody else. And a lot of it is just sharing my story. This is what I went through. I've battled depression on and off in my life. I have even went so far as trying to take a bunch of pills over a relationship with a guy. So I've had so many life experiences that I'm able to meet my clients and the people that I work with. And I just love, when I talk about that itch, that thing, it's all about helping. How can I help you come out from the cold? How can I help you?
Because you've done it.
I've been there. I've been there. I've seen it. I've had to make very hard decisions in life. My sister, she got pneumonia. The youngest of 6, I had to make the decision to disconnect her from life support. So I have been in so many tough, and I watched her take her last breath. And I have been in so many situations in life. And my message to the people is that you're not alone. You know, I've walked this path that you've walked, and it's just a matter of take a deep breath and start shoving the coal to get the heat, right? Let's concentrate on where we're going. Let's concentrate on where we're going. We can't change where we've been, and we'll deal with that if we need to. But let's look at where we're going. So my number one thing in my mind is don't let the people I work with continue to concentrate on the problem. Let's move to the solution. If you're cold, and I make this reference a lot, if you're cold, you will stay cold as long as you're up there being shoveled up, right? But if you want to get rid of the cold, you start thinking about heat. How do I get heat? How can I get that heat? How can I
You immediately have to solve that problem. Exactly.
Cold. Exactly.
Well, that's a perfect place for us. Sorry, that's a perfect place for us to take a break. We're getting ready right now for a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about that and looking forward and find that solution and moving ahead. And right now we're moving ahead into a break. This is Carla Taylor with the Bring Your Brilliance radio show here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
And we are back. This is Carla Taylor. I am the host of the Bring Your Brilliance radio show. We are live on the Inspired Choices Network. And one of the ways that I help people bring their brilliance is by helping with personal branding strategies and LinkedIn. And I actually have a ghostwriting service for those of you who are too busy to do it yourself or just don't feel like you know where to start with your own copywriting or articles or posts or different ways to become known for what you do. And that is one of the things that I offer. I have a website, bringyourbrilliance.net, to learn more about that. And you can also learn more about my Career Happiness Project and other things on itstimetoBringIt.com. We've got Victoria Finch on the line. She is an amazing guru of all things. She really is incredibly smart about how to get things done. And so, Victoria, before we jump back into your story, tell us a little bit more about how people can find you and where can they go to ask those questions of you?
Yes, you can email me at victoria@justaskvictoria.com. You can call my office at 317-527-1440. You can find me on the web at victoriafinchinternational.com.
Wonderful. So there's a lot of ways. She's being very generous with all the different ways to contact her. And like we've said, if you've just you have a burning question or you have a fear of starting or just a need to solve something that you've been mulling around and can't quite figure out, just ask Victoria. She really is here to help and has such a big heart for helping. And Victoria, you were just kind of telling us a little bit more about that heart for helping and the fact that you are somebody who has walked in those shoes. And I know there's an expression about if you're going to go on a boat, you want a captain who has gone through many storms and not somebody who's only seen the calm waters. I'm not quite getting that right, but that is who you are. You have been through the storms. You have walked in those shoes. So keep telling us a little bit more about that.
The question was, how do I wrap my arms and help my client? I grew up with a grandmother. That's what she did. You know, everybody went to grandma's house, and she had the answers, and she was welcoming. And I just try to be as welcoming as I can. I try to let God's light shine so that people can feel comfortable telling me things. And because sometimes it's quite, sometimes I have people tell me things that they've never verbalized to anyone. And
wow.
I just have to maintain that presence. And that takes work. That really takes work. The Bible talks about renewing of your mind on a daily basis. And you have to renew yourself, whatever you believe in. And this isn't a discussion about religion, but whatever you believe in, that's the one thing that all religions, all teachings, Eastern, Western, agree on, is that we must continually renew ourselves. We have to regenerate our minds, our bodies, our souls. And it takes work, daily quiet time. Because if I'm always busy and you can't get a hold of Victoria, she's too busy, and I am very busy, by the way. But when people come to me, I slow down for them. And I think that's a big deal, is I slow down. When my son comes home from school and I'm on the phone, I flip my phone down and I put it on the table. I put my hands together and I look at him. That's another thing. People don't look at one another. I look at you when you're speaking to me. Now, that doesn't mean that if you see me at a coffee house and I'm across from someone, I'm on my phone. That's only because that's a whole other situation. But if you come to me, you can see me do that, right? I got to say that. But if you come to me and you need me, I'm all eyes on you.
Being fully present. Yeah, that is such a lost art even, I think, or sometimes people have never really practiced being fully present and looking people in the eyes, but especially in today's culture with, the cell phones and everybody looking down and not really paying any attention to each other. I know there was just a popular post that went kind of viral about a photographer showing what we would look like if you just removed the phones, and it's chilling, actually, how little we tend to connect in our day-to-day lives nowadays. So you connect, and you've been through it, and you come from a place of understanding and empathy, it sounds like. So let's talk a little bit more about you. You talked about how busy you are in all these businesses. Like, that's a lot. So, and this is one of my questions, how do you balance family with the many businesses that you have?
I control my time, and my time.
Or how do you just balance life in general? Say that again. I talked over you.
I control my time, and my time doesn't control me.
Wow.
I put things.
So how do you do that?
I put things in my schedule. That way, I am not always reacting. We live in such a reactive world. We don't plan things. I know my son gets out of football at 5:30. That is in my schedule. I'm not going to take a call at 5:29. That is our time to drive home and talk. I control my time. That's what's really important to me. I get up extra early so that I can have that peaceful time, that renewing of the mind that I spoke about. And you have to teach people to respect your time. My children know, my family know that if my door is closed, and it's in the morning because maybe I didn't get up quite so early, until that door opens, they don't bother me. We have to take our time back. We have to control that. It goes on my schedule, and it is rare that I have to change it. And if I have to change it, it's only because I have to change it. But that gives me order, too. That gives me order.
So I love what you said about we teach people, I don't know if you said it exactly this way, but we teach people how to treat us, or we teach people what our priorities are, and we show them by what we do, not by what we say. And you're right, so many people think they don't have a choice, or they just have to react to fight fires all the time. But if you're in that mode, you're never going to get ahead.
That's right.
So have you ever been in that place, and how did you get out of it?
Oh, absolutely. We all have 168
How did you learn? Sorry, go ahead.
We all have the same time. We all have 168 hours. We just do. I have learned, I can't think of the name of the book now, but there's this wonderful book. I'm a reader. First of all, I'm always learning something. I guess that's why people can just ask Victoria, because I'm always learning something. I'm always learning.
Right.
So there's this book, and it talks about dividing your time. Because oh, my God, it was horrible with time management. Absolutely. I was reacting. I reacted. Never scheduled anything. I just kept, and I was a mess. I was a total mess. I came across this, and what it says was, you have to divide what's urgent, what's non-urgent, what's important, and you put them in these boxes. And as you're scheduling your day, your week, your month, however you schedule, you put it in that box, urgent. For instance, I don't check emails at night. I do some evenings, but I check my emails from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's it. And then I'll do it in the afternoon from 3 to 7, depending on what I've scheduled in. You're not going to get an answer from me in my email, and mostly in the middle of the day between that 11 and 3. And if you email me, I'm not going to answer because I'm not going to get it. So I schedule that. And people will say, well, I emailed you last night. And I said, well, I don't get it. I'm not checking my email. I have decided to run my life and not let my life run me. And once I decided what's urgent, what's not urgent, what's important, and what's not important, then I'm able to do that and not be as reactive and stressed out.
I love what you just said. I have decided to run my life and not let my life run me. That is an inspired choice, Victoria Finch. That is awesome. Okay, so you've seen a lot. You've been through a lot yourself, and you've seen a lot of other people's businesses. So what would you say are the top 3 things that really differentiate between a business that fails and a business that succeeds? What makes a business successful? And you can give more or less than 3, but what are some of the differences that you see?
Vision. You have to have a vision for your business. And you have to be able to get other people on board with your vision. We don't live in an island. You hear stories of the lonely artist. He's up in his room and he creates these wonderful masterpieces. And he's all by himself and he doesn't need anyone. Well, where did he get his paintbrush? Where did he get his easel? He's standing on the floor. Somebody built that building. So you have got to get people into your vision, number 1. That goes back to, if you don't believe in yourself, find someone who believes in you. You also have to decide, is this a hobby or is it a business? That's 2 different things. Am I willing to sacrifice for this? Or am I willing to do it kind of when I get around to it? What I find with most people is they don't make a decision. You have to make decisions. And another reason why business fails, 95% of them fail due to lack of funding. You have to figure out how to finance your business and your life. I hear it all the time. I don't want to get a business loan. I don't want to have to owe. I want to get a grant. Everybody wants a grant. No one wants business credit. And I'm thinking, do you know that Walmart has 352 business accounts?
Wow.
Starbucks? Do you think that they pay cash for those coffee cups? They do not. They have vendor accounts. They have learned. You must learn to have a success. 3 things you absolutely must leverage: other people's time. If you're paying someone to make calls for you, and you're making calls, you've doubled your time. You've leveraged someone else's time. Other people's knowledge. You can't do it all. You can't. You don't have the skill set. You don't have the knowledge to do it all. So you find people who can do that and fill in those holes. And you leverage other people's money. Any large corporation that you look at do not use their own money. They take their money and invest it in a higher yield. Go ahead.
Let's dive into that. We're getting ready to go to our break. I love the 3 things that you just shared. So we're going to reiterate those when we get back from break. Again, this is Carla Taylor. We're talking to Victoria Finch with Just Ask Victoria here on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
We all have a personal brand. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. What if you knew how to clearly and confidently communicate your value in a compelling way? Tune in to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor to discover the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to get started and keep growing. Are you ready to make your mark? Learn how to bring your brilliance by listening to the Bring Your Brilliance radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Bring Your Brilliance radio show with personal branding and LinkedIn strategist Carla Taylor. To join today's conversation, call in the U.S. at 815-880-8255 or Canada at 613-800-8736 or Skype at Inspired Choices Network. Or ask a question or send a comment by email at bringyourbrilliance@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. We were just talking to Victoria Finch. We're here on the Bring Your Brilliance radio show. You're listening to the Inspired Choices Network, and we've been talking a lot about choices this morning and really making that decision, making that choice, and being committed. And right before we went to break, Victoria, you were sharing with us the 3 things that's so important to know about, to leverage, and to be able to do so much more than you can on your own. So would you reiterate those for us again? And then I want to dive a little bit deeper into the business financing part of it. So go ahead and tell us again, what are those 3 things that we need to leverage?
Other people's time, other people's knowledge, other people's money.
That and I think so many people don't think about it that way, or they think they have to do it all. They can only count on themselves, and then they don't get very far. And so we've been talking about the differences between those businesses that don't make it and those that do. So are there any more things before we dive into the business financing conversation? Because I do want to ask a few questions about that. What else is it? Are there anything? Is there other things that? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have to do a couple of disclosures. I'm not advocating that people go in debt, nor am I an investment advisor. I just needed to get that out there.
Okay. For sure. Yes, you're definitely not that. One of the things you recommend is making sure people get the right professionals that they check in with, for sure. So anything else that you would for sure say you've got to have this to be successful?
You have got to make sure that you are working with someone that understands taxation. Having worked for the IRS for 5 years, I understand you can get in a lot of trouble. I had someone call me recently, and he said, Victoria, I need help. I've got these notices from the IRS. I've got these notices from the state. I don't know what to do with them. They're saying I owe all this money. What do I do? I was able to work with him, determine what returns he needed to file. We're still working, and we're getting him set up on automation so that he doesn't have this issue again, and his returns are able to file. Because if you don't do this, you get charged non-filing fees and daily interest fees. So it's very, very important that you understand or have other people's knowledge, someone who understands accounting for you.
So pay attention to those details, and if you don't know how to do it, find a professional who does.
Absolutely.
Are we still here? So then going a little bit deeper, so we talked about business financing. And I know I have been raised with you never want to go into debt, you never want to take on debt, you need to avoid debt at all costs. But like you were pointing out, all of these other businesses, Walmart, Starbucks, the ones that you were mentioning, and all of them really have some sort of leveraged money. So talk a little bit more about that, and what would you tell somebody who's afraid of that, or how do you handle that with people?
I ask one simple question. Do you have another plan to grow and sustain your business? If you have another way to do that financially, then that's okay. But be very cautious of borrowing and getting money from friends and family and putting them out. Be very cautious. People will this is one thing that boggles the mind. Clients will go out, people will go out and get a home equity line of credit against their home, where they live, where their family is, to open a business. but yet they don't want to borrow money. And I think people just don't understand really what they're doing. You'll go get a home equity line against your house that you could possibly lose. Heaven forbid something happens with this business, but you don't want to borrow money and have business credit because debt is bad.
That is such a good point. You're right. I've heard so many people be willing, because I think it's partly the known and the unknown, right? Like, you know about getting a home equity loan. So that's a known entity that you know how to handle. But this unknown world of business credit, I think, is part of what scares people. It's the navigating the unknown. And that's what's so brilliant about what you're doing. Yeah, that you are there to help answer those questions or guide them through that scary part.
It's education. It comes down to education. I educate. When people ask me things, I educate them. I give them the information that I have so that they can make an informed decision. That is key, is education.
So you aren't just answering questions and not imparting knowledge, but you're actually empowering and equipping people to be able to answer those questions for themselves in the future as well.
Absolutely. When I did credit repair on a full-time basis, it did me no good to fix your credit if I didn't talk to you about budgeting. And I always take that to heart. If
great.
There's not a lesson, then you're just going to go back and repeat what you do. And I would rather not have that for you.
That's fantastic. And that is also, I think, one of the things that really differentiates you is that you don't just answer a question. You teach people how to know better and transform whatever it is that got them to that place in the first place. So there's so many more questions that we could ask you, and there's so many more questions I'm sure all of our listeners have. And we're getting to the very, very end of our program. So tell us again how to find you, how to get you to ask the questions. Do you offer any sort of free consultation or anything like that? Just give us a really quick way. How do we ask our questions of you?
Yes, you can email me, Victoria at justaskvictoria.com. You can also call the office, 317-527-1440. I'm also on the web at victoriafinchinternational.com. And I do offer a no cost, no obligation, 15 minutes. I call it a talk because we're talking together.
Okay.
I don't like calling it a consultation because I'm not consulting. You and I are talking. We're discovering together how I can help you and what questions you may not even know that you need to just ask Victoria. And I offer that at no obligation,
wonderful.
No cost, 15 minutes.
So we can find you in all those places. That number is a U.S. number. There's also, I know it on all the different social media, your /JustAskVictoria. So if you have your questions, please find Victoria. Go to her website, go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn. And if you want any help bringing your brilliance, please come to bringyourbrilliance.net or to find me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and I'm out there helping people all the time grow their presence. And I just want to inspire you to go out there and make that decision and find your thing and find your voice and get it out to the world, because all of us have brilliance within us, and it's really important to share your gifts and talents with the world. That's what Bring Your Brilliance is all about. That's what Inspired Choices is here to do, is to inspire you to make better choices. And Victoria is here to ask. Just ask Victoria. She's a wonderful business resource for anybody anywhere in the world. She's here in the U.S., but she can help you wherever you are. And this is your reminder to just go out there and do your thing and be bold and be brave and be brilliant and be you. So thank you again, Victoria, for your time here today. And we will be back next week again at 10 a.m. on Friday.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Bring Your Brilliance with Carla Taylor. For the latest updates and info on personal branding, please follow and interact with Carla Taylor on LinkedIn. And be sure to visit www.itstimetobringit.com. Join Carla Taylor every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, keep